The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to this month's GWI Trends webinar. This series of webinars will delve into a different topic each month to showcase what global web index data can tell us about the latest digital trends and provide in-depth insights into the trends that are impacting the industry right now. My name is Phelim. I'm the Trends Manager at Global Web Index, and I'm here along with our Head of Customer Success, Ben, and our Senior Trends Analyst, Chase. Today, we are presenting a webinar on a much discussed audience, mothers. Over the next 20 minutes or so, we'll look at some key aspects of the digital lives of mothers, from their preferred devices to their engagement with online video entertainment, their behaviors in the social space, and their interactions with brands online. If you'd like to ask any questions as we go along, you can type them in the messaging box and Ben and Chase will respond. And I'll also be answering a few questions at the end of the webinar. I'm going to start by just being very clear about Global Web Index's research and the methodology behind all the figures I'll be presenting today. GWI is an audience profiling company. And along with many other products, we run the world's largest ongoing study on the digital consumer. Each year, we survey over 350,000 internet users aged 16 to 64 in 40 markets around the world. We do this to investigate digital lives of connected consumers, from their demographics, attitudes, and interests, to their online activities, social media usage, media consumption, and brand engagement. All the figures I'll present today are taken from this research. It is self-reported data from internet users aged 16 to 64. And the audience definition I'll be using today, you can see here. When I refer to mothers, I'm talking about female internet users who have at least one child who is age 16 or below. So we'll start by taking a look at what devices mothers own, and perhaps most importantly, what devices are most important to them. And really, there are two clear stories here. One is the multi-device ownership of this audience. Smartphone ownership is now almost universal here. And although ownership rates for PCs and laptops are declining slightly, they're certainly not being abandoned. It's still over 85% who own one. What's more, mothers do push ahead of the curve for tablet ownership. Though, as an aside here, there are numerous metrics to suggest that even amongst mothers, tablets have lost some of their momentum, and engagement with these devices will begin to recede pretty soon. You can also see the large numbers that own a smart TV and that have a games console in their house. In fact, taken together, the average mother owns about 3 internet devices, meaning they have a selection of devices available to them to use to interact with online content throughout their day. However, having said all that, the other key story that emerges from this data is the rising importance of the smartphone to the digital lives of today's mothers. As I mentioned, smartphone ownership is essentially universal amongst this group. And what's more, we see figures above the 90% mark for smartphone ownership across virtually all the major demographic and regional breaks. And it's clear that for mothers, smartphones are the most important internet device, and by a striking distance. Globally, 47% of mothers say they see their mobile as their most important internet device, giving them a 19-point advantage over second place laptops. In comparison, look over to tablets, and mothers might over-index considerably for citing this as the most important device, but their figure remains a lowly 4%. In fact, even if you look just at tablet users amongst the mothers' audience, it's still smartphones that come out ahead, with tablets lagging significantly behind. But the regional differences are key here. Online mothers in fast growth markets are the most likely to choose smartphones as their most important device, a result of mobiles having a more major role in the development of digital infrastructures in these markets. That many of these markets, like India, Indonesia, and Vietnam, have the fastest growing online populations, will mean the importance of smartphones in connecting would-be digital consumers will only strengthen in the future. The mature market regions of Europe and North America display a much stronger attachment to PCs and laptops, a reflection of these devices continuing to retain a fundamental role in the online landscapes of these areas. Yet, if we were to look at only young mothers in these regions, so age 16 to 34, smartphones experience a notable boost and come first place on this metrics. Now, with each year that passes, we see mothers spending longer and longer online. And the principal driver behind this climb in online time has been the rise of mobile, with smartphones having seen the most striking rate of growth on this metric, now standing at almost 40% of total online time per day. Equally though, it's pretty clear that PCs and laptops certainly aren't being cast aside, that these devices have only experienced a small decline in this period shows that they continue to have a significant imprint in daily internet usage trends, and are most importantly encouraging mothers to spend longer and longer online. Key here is the anywhere, anytime access that mobiles offer mothers, meaning they're now able to conduct online behaviors throughout the day whenever they want. What's also clear is that a significant portion of this online time may be being shared with another user, likely a partner or a child. In fact, although it's long been known that devices like PCs, laptops, and smart TVs are shared amongst multiple users, GWI's data makes it clear that the same trend is in evidence for mobiles and tablets too. Mothers in particular are much more likely than the average to say they're sharing their tablets. Almost 70% of online mothers who use a tablet say that somebody else has use of it. What's more, even though smartphones are normally considered the most personal devices of all, it's still around a third from this audience who are sharing mobiles too. This means that when you're thinking about a mother's device, even a tablet or a smartphone, it's rarely just one user that you need to consider. The audience behind that device is often much more than just the owner. So let's take a look at some of the activities that mothers are doing on these devices, and in particular, their engagement with entertainment. And the first thing to note here is the continued importance of broadcast television. On average, this audience is now devoting over 2.5 hours per day to this form of entertainment, which means it's about a fifth of their total media time each day. Admittedly, time spent watching linear TV has seen decline since 2013, but these drops have been far from dramatic. As such, even as online TV continues to gain importance, broadcast TV will remain at the center point of mothers' entertainment consumption habits. Online TV and streaming has experienced consistent year-on-year growth, now approaching the 1 hour per day mark, but it still has some distance to cover before it become a real challenger. That said, demographics do have a pretty significant impact here. Younger mothers, who typically spend the longest time online, are much more likely to be engaging with online TV. The opposite pattern is seen for linear TV, where older users are much likely to be engaging. And although linear TV remains quite dominant amongst mothers' entertainment habits, that's not to say that online forms of entertainment are not popular amongst this group. In fact, it's now 2/3 of this group who are using a music streaming service. And while mothers may not be engaging with online forms of TV for significant times each day, it's over half who say that they do watch online TV at least some of the time. In most markets, the rise of Netflix has been a key factor here, but the increasing online offerings of national broadcasters, like the BBC's iPlayer, is also important. Another key factor to consider here is that while mothers may be watching a significant amount of television, that doesn't mean they can't be reached digitally during this viewing time. Almost 85% of mothers say they are getting online while watching TV. And mobiles are absolutely central to this activity, with 2 in 3 regularly dual screening via mobile. Look at the activities that second screeners are engaging in, and social activities come out on top. Mothers are most likely to be checking social networks or chatting to friends, with these behaviors having a decent lead over third place reading the news. Meanwhile, it is important to note that dual screening behaviors tend to be informal. That's to say, they're not taking place within official apps linked to television programs or stations. It's certainly telling that only a fifth of second screening mothers say they're looking for information related to what they're watching, indicating that there's no automatic link between the content appearing on both screens. Further proof from this comes from the relatively low figures who say they're sharing the opinions of TV shows or interacting with programs' content. However, mothers do over-index considerably for both of these actions, and it's not an inconsiderate group who say they're doing this. Second screening might not be the golden gateway to engage these consumers, but there is a bit of potential here. However, one clear way to reach these consumers is through social media. Now, there are many nuances to how mothers are engaging with social media, but at a top line level, it's important to note that daily social media usage has experienced consistent increases since 2012. Social now commands the lion's share of online time per day at about 2.25 hours. The rise of mobile has been a key factor in helping mothers increase their time spent on social media. In fact, smartphones are now the primary social device for this audience, allowing them to access social media whenever and wherever they please. Now, just how important social media is amongst this group is clearly represented when you look at the fact that 99% of mothers tell us they've used social media in the last month, with messaging apps almost as popular. And if you look at the big names in the world of social, we can see that Facebook retains the title as the most used social network amongst this group. And considering Facebook Messenger, WhatsApp, and Instagram also post significant figures, the power of the Facebook empire is pretty obvious. However, I do want to stop here briefly to highlight the importance of Pinterest to mothers in particular markets. Really, I'm talking about the USA and Canada here, where mothers are about 50% more likely than the average internet user to be using Pinterest. In the USA, in fact, we see usage rates among mothers reaching 60%, inching Pinterest ahead of Instagram. I should say, though, all the figures I've been mentioning regarding specific networks here have excluded China. If you'd like to get more information on social platforms in China, you'll find it in our Mothers Reports or via GWI's Pro Platform. Now, you can easily get bogged down in trying to figure out which network is the most important for mothers and which demands your attention, particularly as the social media landscape is a much more crowded picture compared to, say, 10 years ago. But what's clear is that mothers are not restricting themselves to one or even to a small selection of networks. Mothers are now members of almost 3 times the number of networks as in 2012, averaging around 8 social media accounts. And to give you a comparison, the average internet user is a member of around 7 social networks. Essentially, mothers are choosing to spread their networking activities over an array of different platforms. Messaging apps and their developments into platforms reminiscent of social networks have been key contributors and beneficiaries of this trend. In this context, it's obvious that a multi-platform strategy is essential to fully optimize engagement with online mothers. And one reason why having a strong presence across a range of social platforms is so important is the rising importance of social media in various steps of the purchase journey. In fact, when we ask mothers about where they go when they're actually looking for more information about a product or service, search engines may be the most popular tools, being used by over half. But there's evidence to suggest that search behaviors are beginning to change. Social networks are now the second biggest go-to point for research, alongside consumer reviews. Whereas search engines are displaying much the same figures than they were back in early 2015, social networks have experienced steady quarter-on-quarter growth here. More than anything else, it's the rise of mobile, which is having a particularly transformative effect here. We've already seen that our long-term data shows consistent rises in the amount of time that mothers are spending online via mobiles each day. As a result, it's not hard to see why alternative approaches to search will have an appeal, from those who want to complete their search activities inside one app to those who dislike typing on mobiles or feel it takes too long. Tools which make it easier, quicker, and more intuitive to search for information are bound to resonate. Also, with social networks involving beyond simple communication platforms to cover so many more of the typical user's daily internet activities, their emerging role in the product research phase should really come as no surprise. researching products via social networks is most prevalent in regions like the Middle East and Africa and Latin America, where we see quite high figures. In Europe, we see stronger attachment to more traditional channels with over-indexes for options like forums and brand websites. But that being said, mothers in North America are actually 68% more likely to be researching products on online pin boards like Pinterest, for example. And getting this engagement right can lead to some serious benefits. It's now 82% of online mothers who are purchasing something online at least once a month, with mobiles now almost as important as PCs and laptops for this activity. And when we look at what motivates these mothers to complete a purchase online, two themes emerge pretty clearly. The first is the importance of simple financial incentives, discounts, and rewards. Free delivery is by far the most important factor in motivating mothers to complete a purchase, and it's the most impactful purchase driver across all age, income, and geographical breaks that we see. We also see financial rewards and loyalty points rank among the top over-indexers of this audience and the top options overall. And mothers are furthest ahead of the average for being influenced by competitions. The second clear aspect here is the importance of third-party referrals. So 4 in 10 mothers say that customer reviews would increase their likelihood of buying something, and a quarter are influenced by social media likes, with this being one of this audience's biggest over-indexes. So considering the opinions of others is so important to the purchase decisions of online mothers, and considering more than half of online mothers are posting reviews online, and that nearly 2/3 say they regularly recommend products to friends and family, what are the best methods to gain brand advocates amongst this audience? Now, perhaps unsurprisingly, it's high quality products which is most likely to convert someone into a brand advocate. This remains the strongest influencer across all the income groups and world regions. Financial rewards also score highly here, indicating that many mothers will exchange advocacy when they see a clear value. Interestingly, the top income quartile posts figures similar to that of the lower one here, suggesting that the appeal of financial incentives cuts across wealth groups. It's also worth noting that over 1/3 of online mothers say they become an advocate out of simple love for the brand or if something has relevance to their own interests. But also it's true that positive brand consumer relationships really underpin brand advocacy amongst this group, with having an insider knowledge about a brand's products and having a personal relationship with the brand being amongst the top over indexes we see. Through cultivating these personal relationships with this audience, brand can leverage their existing communities to endorse their products. And the online voices of mothers are certainly something that can be fundamental to the success of certain brands. So thanks for listening, everybody. If you want to find out more about marketing to mothers online, our clients can download our new report from our Pro platform. And also, everyone who signed up to the webinar will get a free copy of this report in a follow-up email that will come out tomorrow. We're going to stick around for another 5 minutes or so to answer some questions if anybody has any. If you think of anything later, though, feel free to tweet me or send me an email. My details are up now. You can always find out more about Global Web Index from our website, globalwebindex.net, which has details about all our other products, like our custom research offerings and our GWI analytics solution for audience validation and advertising effectiveness, and our new data about engagement with specific named brands. So I'm just going to take some moments here to review the questions, and I'll answer some. So we have one question about asking about mothers who have older children. Probably something we can answer best in a follow-up email. I'll pass that on to one of my colleagues, but I would say that the likelihood, obviously, of someone having an older children will make them probably an older mother. As I mentioned, in older demographics, you see different skews in digital engagement. So linear TV being much more important to older demographics as opposed to online TV, and attachment more to more traditional devices like laptops and desktops. And within the brand discovery and research phase, maybe an attachment to more traditional sources like search engines, TV ads, and print ads. As I mentioned, a little complicated to get into right here, but we'll follow up with an email. There's a quick question about the figure I gave for buying online. I just want to confirm that, yeah, amongst the online population who are mothers with children 16 or younger, it's 82% that we estimate are buying at least one product online each month. And there's a question about sample as well. So we cover 40 markets that's distributed around the world, across Asia, across Middle East, Africa, Europe, Latin America, and North America. You can find a full list of the countries that we work in on our website. I'm not going to name them all right now. The sample is distributed quite evenly across these markets, and they're weighted appropriately to the online populations, to be representative of the online populations within those markets. Okay, guys, I think that's all for the questions. If anybody has anything else, feel free to type it in and we'll follow up by email. Thanks very much for listening. Goodbye, everybody.